we we were, was that Sunday? No, Saturday. It was Saturday.
You, myself, and Sammy were talking about this just off the back of a meeting that we had, and yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, it goes back as far as Friday, to be honest, because Friday there was this whole thing of, oh my god, is this a Battlefront 3 tease from a DICE dev? Oh my god, which it wasn't. So like for me, it was like, is this a tease? No, it's not. Saturday, we were talking about more Star Wars games that we really want to see. Sunday, I posted that video of like, no, it's not a tease. Monday, we got the announcement of Lucasfilm Games being a thing, which already just led to like oh my god, could we be seeing more? Tuesday,
it's more of a relaunch, really, because like Lucasfilm Games has been around since like the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, before LucasArts was a thing, it was actually Lucasfilm Games. So yeah, it's Lucasfilm Games has been around for a while. It's just they're going back to this old brand that they used to have, which is pretty exciting. And then like on Tuesday there was that whole Indiana Jones reveal, which to me was awesome, but also I was kind of like, could we maybe see some Star Wars announcements over the next few days or weeks or whatever. And on Tuesday night I was playing Hero Showdown with a good friend of the podcast, Yepper.
Hey.
And we played for a good hour or so, getting like a 6 or 7 win streak on Hero Showdown. And like for the whole time we were pretty much just talking about Star Wars games and ones we want to see and all that stuff. And it was just very little did I know that 12 or so hours later, bang, boom, more Star Wars games coming. And it's just, what a crazy week.
For so long. Let's get right into this.
Welcome
to UPLINK. For so long, like, I mean, in that string of events, we were like, okay, no, that wasn't really a tease of Battlefront 3. We would love a Battlefront 3. Lucasfilm Games got announced. We're like, okay, this is interesting. What's going on here? Then the Indiana Jones game, as everyone's like, okay, calm down. EA's not losing the license. They're just making an Indiana Jones game. And then the next day is like, oh my gosh, EA's losing the exclusivity license.
It's so crazy. Like, I love that EA have been able to make the games that they have done so far, because I've really enjoyed all of them. I've spent so much time on them.
Oh, 100%.
Some, Fallen Order's one of my favorite single player games of all time. Squadrons is one of my favorite Star Wars experiences. Battlefront 2 is just my favorite game, and 2015 was good, but it's so refreshing and so awesome that other developers and creators out there get to actually work on this amazing Star Wars franchise, because there's just so much more that we can get from this, and it's just happy days. Very
Star
happy
Wars
days.
Man, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Let's go in and talk a little bit about the ideas that are being put in place. So EA will still continue to make Star Wars games. They are still working on Star Wars games. They have some that have been announced, or one that has been announced, Fallen Order 2, that has been confirmed.
Like Fallen Order 2 is, it hasn't officially been like properly announced, like, yeah, we're making Fallen Order 2. It's just because they've been hiring for the Star Wars team, it's like we know they're making another one. I think we'll get like so we know that they are making another Jedi game, but
they would be insane not to. So that's the only thing that we know for sure that's going to be on the horizon. So that's great. I mean, so we got the Lucasfilm Games announcement, doing daily videos on UPLINK Podcast YouTube channel. Subscribe if you have not.
Do it.
That day that it got announced, Lucasfilm Games and the Indiana Jones game, I made a video. I was like, what would be great is if when EA loses the exclusivity license, that it opens up and EA will continue to make Star Wars games, but other studios will be able to make Star Wars games too.
Next day.
The next day.
Oh, God. It's crazy, honestly. It really is. Like, it's the right time, really, I think, because if we went another 2 years where other companies could not make Star Wars games, then we'd have to wait even longer. Like, we'd probably get like another 100% Fallen Order 2, and because yesterday EA announced that there are, or yesterday as of recording this, EA announced that there are multiple Star Wars projects in the works. So maybe we could have had another one before or in 2023 as well. So it's just, we would have had 2 Star Wars games then from EA, great. But no one else would be able to really work on Star Wars games yet until that license was over, essentially. So we would have had to wait even longer. And because we've just come off the back of, some really great years with EA, it's nice to know now that that other developers are are being able to have the chance to work on these games as well, because it could be a case of we get to 2024 and that's when the first non-EA game is released, or maybe even in 2023.
Technically, the license, they're still going to have an exclusivity license for that 10-year period, because there's no way that we will see any of the games that got announced, the Indiana Jones game or the Ubisoft game, which we'll get into later in the episode. There's no way that those get released until that point. Like there's
no way.
These are literally, they have been announced, and this is them just getting out of the office room and signing the papers, shaking the hands, and being like, okay, we're making a Star Wars.
It is still pretty much going to be a 10-year period of just EA games, but it's going to be a case of other people now can make them as well. Because if they still genuinely had, exclusive license for 10 years and no one else could make Star Wars games, then it would be we would be in a situation where, we'd have to wait even longer, like even, mid to late 20s, really.
Mm-hmm.
But now that it's like we've just announced Lucasfilm Games and we're opening the doors, which is it's the best news that we could have, really, because as you say, like it's still going to pretty much be a 10-year period of EA, because there's no chance we'll see one of these Star Wars games from another studio come before that. Yeah. So, I mean, we could maybe see something in late 2023. Like, it's definitely possible, but it depends on how big or small or the project really is. So I think we could definitely see something in late 2023 that's not from EA, but even then, there's nothing going to come before that. So as you say, it's still pretty much going to be 10 years of EA, which was not a bad thing. So it's so refreshing to know that actually, whilst there are a number of projects at EA confirmed, the fact that Ubisoft have had their game officially announced with more announcements to come over the year is just is some of the best news we could have ever had, really.
Like this is the best case scenario. Like this is,
it really is.
The dream is, so back in the heyday, back in the golden era where everyone's like, oh my gosh, those were the Star Wars games. Those are the games that everyone loves. It was an open license. You could apply for it. You could purchase the license and create a Star Wars game. Obviously, that meant some of the games weren't that great, but obviously some of the other ones were fantastic. The Battlefront series, the Republic Commando game. I would love to see a sequel to that. That would be epic.
I have a really interesting idea about that, actually. My dream for a Republic Commando game would kind of be like Rainbow Six Siege, but it would be multiplayer and single player. So the single player itself would be like an actual Republic Commando canon story, whether that's essentially telling the tale from episode, essentially the story from the original game, but slightly different, just more appreciative to the canon in a way. Because
expanding
all games coming out will be. Yeah. So basically the single player campaign would be to do with that, starting off from episode 2 and going beyond. But then the actual multiplayer aspect out of it would be like a tactical shooter, so 5v5. You could have multiple operators, so you could have the actual Republic Commander unit itself and maybe some ARC troopers or clone commanders as the playable character for the Republic. And then for the Separatists, you would have IG Lancer droids, maybe super tactical droids and BX commando droids as well. And you'd go up against that, you'd have hostage situations where maybe it's like a Republic senator or some kind of Separatist leader like Newt Gunray or something that the droids need to, rescue. Or you've got your typical bomb sites kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that would be an amazing way to reboot the Republic Commando.
Oh, definitely. I played some on stream. It's the first time I played the game, I believe. I may have played it when it first came out, but I don't really remember it all that much. I was playing it on PC, and my gosh, that game was not made for PC.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. All of these games would have been console, really, wouldn't they? So I mean, some would have been PC, but more
But
so for...
the experience is still there. It's still super fun. While some of the controls are janky, the overall experience is great. The differing abilities that you can have, the attachments for the guns, the DC-17 and the DC-17 sniper attachment, like it's all fantastic.
Yeah.
And the world and those characters are so great. They could really bring it to the next level. Maybe they start with a remaster. I know that's something that a lot of people are talking about currently. Well, I believe remasters are great, and I would love them to be added and brought forward. I don't think they should be made... I think it should be a remaster and not a remake. At this point, I would love to see if there's a big studio, I'd rather them start a new IP or a continuation of a series than remake something. I would love to see just a
100%.
Remaster of Republic Commando or a sequel.
There's a company called Aspire Media who have done multiple, like, well, they're not really they're not remasters. They're just more PS4, Xbox One, like console ports basically. But I feel like it would be interesting to see if they could maybe just do an actual remaster, to be honest, and then see if just another company would actually do either a sequel or just a complete reboot of the franchise, really, because I'm not really too sure how Republic Commando like fits into the canon, and because the guys at Disney have already said that every game coming out will be canon, you do have to abide by that. So I'm not really too sure how well the story fits in like fully. So I don't really feel like a sequel's necessarily on the cards. It would be obviously really cool to see, but I'm not too sure if that would really be possible given that everything has to be canon. So just some kind of reboot, honestly. It doesn't even have to start from episode 2. It could literally just be a new story completely within the Clone Wars series.
Definitely. I would love it. I would love that,
Yeah.
like a spiritual successor, using
Yes,
the buzzwords
exactly.
there.
Yes, very much so.
Another company that does pretty good remasters is a company called Bluepoint, so I would love to see something like that. They did the original port of Titanfall for Microsoft Windows and Xbox One, and the game that I know them by is the Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection. But yeah, I would love to see... I have a video that will be coming out today as we record, talking about what I would want out of a Battlefront 3, and I don't want it from DICE. I want a smaller scale game mode, something like Rainbow Six Siege in belief. I would love to see a smaller game that was set up from the beginning to be expanded later on and set up as a game that could be supported for 5 years instead of the initial promise of Battlefront 2 being that it's a game that's a live service and will continue to be updated, but with the problems at launch with the progression system, they burned 6 to 8 months of content development time fixing the problems that were introduced. So they struggled at launch, but I would love to see a Battlefront game that's smaller in scope, but goes forward and sets up all of the things so it's easily added to. Unlike Battlefront 2, where they couldn't add new star cards, they had to actually change the ones that were already there if they wanted to change anything. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Battlefront franchise itself, like, it's always been this whole large scale thing, but there's no reason why you couldn't have spin-off Battlefront games, because I think there was meant to be one rumored in...
Yes, there was a cancelled Battlefront spin-off.
Yeah, so like I don't really see any reason as to why that can't happen, like whether that's a tactical shooter or something else. Like it could have that Battlefront title there. I mean, I don't think games necessarily have to. Like with a tactical shooter, I'd love it to be maybe just inspired by Republic Commandos and stuff like that. But if it wasn't, and it was to be like multi-era, then maybe that could have a Battlefront title there. But I just think that, especially with some of with multiplayer games, like as much as I love everything to be multi-era, I don't think that should be forced on anyone really. Like Squadrons was obviously just Galactic Civil War towards the end of it, which is great, and everyone, including myself, really has been saying that it would be awesome to see this for the Republic and for the sequel trilogy as well.
Yeah,
and I still absolutely believe that, but I just feel like maybe you can just do that in a different game for that, really, instead of just trying to force yourself to do all of it at once. Because if you do that, instead of have you, I mean, you're going to have like a similar amount of content, but it's going to be smaller per era, which isn't
Exactly.
always a good thing. So,
but yeah, what this really entails is there's a bright future for Star Wars games, and it's going to get even better.
Yeah.
I love all of the developer Twitter accounts are like, I would like to make a Star Wars game. Can I have a Star Wars game?
Yeah. Oh, the funniest one I haven't really seen too many, but the funniest one I saw was Devolver Digital, and then Fall Guys' Twitter account replied saying that like Star Wars Bean, Star Wars in Bean game. So good.
This episode of Uplink Podcast is brought to you by It's Not a Tiny House Podcast, a podcast all about alternative living and making it happen. Definitely go give them a listen. Link will be in the description of this episode. You can find it wherever you find podcasts. Now let's go into the big announcement, the game that everyone is talking about, and we don't have really much details on it at all. The Ubisoft Star Wars open world game.
The words open world Star Wars game, to me, like, I've said it within the last 24 hours. I've repeated it to myself. I've looked in the mirror and gone, I literally, like, before I went to bed last night, I just brushed my teeth and I was like, I looked in the mirror, I was like, we're getting an open world Star Wars game from Ubisoft. And EA are making multiple games. Like, it's just, yesterday's news, like, just put me in so much disbelief. And whilst I didn't show it initially, for at least an hour and a half after the news of the Ubisoft open world, or like towards the time when my video came out, I was literally shaking so much, like, just in so much excitement. And it's just, yeah, it's like the fact that we've got a Ubisoft announcement for an open world Star Wars game. We already know we're getting more announcements later this year. Is just absolutely crazy. I'm really looking forward to that. But open world Star Wars game, like, yeah, as you said, we don't know much about it yet, but I can't help but be excited for it at the moment, especially as it's coming from Massive Entertainment, so the team behind The Division 1 and 2 and The Crew 1 and 2. They're both franchises that I've played a little bit of that,
as well as Just Dance Now.
Yes, and Just Dance Now, there you go. But yeah, like, I've played a little bit of Division 1, a bit of Division 2. The Crew 1 and Crew 2 I put a little bit more time in, and I enjoyed the experiences that I had there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do with Star Wars.
Definitely. So in my video about this, I was talking about I don't want it to be like multiplayer, but I've been thinking about it a little bit. And with the company that they're doing, well, they do have some experience with some non-multiplayer games. I believe, they worked on Far Cry 3, Assassin's Creed Revelations. So they do have some experience in that. I could see them doing an open world, a single-player game. That could be cool. We don't know what era it's going to be in. High Republic could be cool. I don't really want it. As much as I love the original trilogy and it is my favorite era, I think it's time to explore something else. And I think that time is either Clone Wars or before.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be really awesome to see something different that we haven't seen before. But like my dream really is to have an open world bounty hunter game set during the Galactic Civil War, because I feel like it's such a rich time period where, because the Empire has is such a large thing. I feel like it, especially with the Outer Rim as well, it was such a huge time for bounty hunters, and I just feel like there's so much story potential with that. Whereas, during the Clone Wars, you have that period of time as well, and it would be really cool to maybe explore like some corruption between senators, something to do with the Separatists or whatever, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like Galactic Civil War for me is my ideal era for that, but then I want to see other games explore different eras as well. So
depends on what kind of bounty hunter game. If they're going for film noir, I would say definitely like Coruscant in the Clone Wars era. You're going through that underworlds, but if you're going for more like more Western style bounty hunting, definitely you want the galactic civil war. You want to go on Tatooine.
100%.
You want to be able to explore and go through the wretched hive of scum and villainy that is Mos Eisley. Like you want that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Massive are a really good team to be able to do that. I mean, if you look at the Crew 1 and the Crew 2, you can drive across the entirety of America. Like, it's such a... I mean, obviously, it's not like, one-to-one scale. It is a lot more condensed. But if you drive... Like, in the Crew 1 beta all those years ago, I drove from LA all the way to... Cape Cod, so like pretty much bottom left to top right of the US almost, and that took me like 2.5 hours to drive, and I was driving a very fast car. So they have the experience to be able to build these huge open world environments, whether that is going to be just on one planet or like smaller open worlds on different planets or something. Maybe, I don't know, like either way, I feel like they are a really solid team to be able to build this kind of environment. And I don't know, like I think it could be single player, but at the same time, I'm kind of hoping to see it maybe be a bit like what they have done with the Crew and the Division, in that it has like a story that you play through with your own character. So it is almost like a single player story, but you can, well, I mean, with Division, you can do it co-op with online players as well, which is cool.
Yeah. Which I think that would be cool if they were going to do something. I would want it that size. I don't want it to be massive, but I would also like the option to play single player. I think that would be good.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you boot up the game, it could be like play single player or play online. And if you go single player, you can just play throughout. You can play the whole story really leisurely and just walk around the open world without any like care in the world. And then if you choose to play multiplayer, then perhaps the difficulty's ramped up, but you're playing with online players in co-op with this, with this story. And I think it would also be really good if there is multiplayer, they have all these things that you can do with other online players. Like with the Division, for example, you've got like the Dark Zone. So in there, it's like super tough, but you can get like really high level, like high tier loot and stuff like that, and you have to extract and everything. There's a lot of potential for that. They've got really solid they've got really solid background with single player stuff, as you mentioned, and multiplayer and kind of co-op and stuff like that. So I think whatever happens, I think we're in for a real treat with this game.
Oh, definitely. Also, real-time follow-up. It looks like Ivory Towers did the Crew on the info that I could find.
So maybe what it is then is that well, it's just because the creative. It was said that the creative director for the game. Okay, so maybe he was over there, but I mean, either way, like he was the director for the Crew, so he's got this experience with a team of open world. Of this vast open world experience. So he can definitely bring that to the table for sure.
Also, more real-time follow-up. They also have an Untitled Avatar game.
They do, yes.
I've totally forgot about this, but they announced this a good while ago, that this has been one of the announcements of going into Avatar. They had a couple games that they wanted to be lined up, and there were some problems, and this is the company that was also going to be making a Avatar game, which they still haven't had more details on.
Yeah, I actually remember that. That's crazy. It's weird to think that over the next few years we're going to be seeing like another 4 films from Avatar. But yeah, it's awesome that I honestly completely forgot about that. But yeah, I remember seeing that in the article yesterday. So it's exciting to see that Massive not only have got the experience they have with the Division, but they've also got a team working on a big franchise like Avatar, and obviously going for even bigger with Star Wars. So
they're also using something called the Snowdrop engine.
Yeah, so that's what they used for, I think this. Well, yeah, it's definitely what they used for Division, but I'm now doubting. I can't imagine they used it for Crew then. But either way, yeah, it's. I mean, the Division looks visually great. It's a really nice looking engine, and I think there is a lot of possibilities. And especially with the thing to remember as well is that because we're now in a period of time where we have the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, we've got these capabilities that several years ago we didn't have. So there's not only can they build a big experience like they have done with their previous games, but they can just expand even more because the technology is so much more advanced.
It's going to be fantastic to see the future of it. Now
really
that we've
will.
got this opening, what kind of developers would you like to see do more Star Wars games?
That's a really tough question, to be honest. I think a lot of people have said this. Sorry, door shine. I think a lot of people have said this, but Naughty Dog would be awesome to make a game. Like, they obviously done Last of Us 1 and 2. I'm yet to play 2, but Last of Us 1 is one of my favourite games of all time, so I'd love to see them do something maybe with Star Wars. I think that'd be really cool. I mean, with The Last of Us, they've got all these stealth mechanics because of the clickers and stuff, so I think it'd be really cool and interesting to see some kind of game where they do something like that. As for, like, even if EA weren't acquiring Codemasters, I would have said Codemasters to make a pod racing game that's, super in depth, kind of like Squadrons but racing instead. And
a Criterion would also be a really good one for that project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Criterion or Codemasters. I feel like Codemasters would be my ideal one. Like, Criterion are working on Need for Speed, so I'm more than happy for them to continue doing that. Whereas Codemasters have got vast experience over the last 20 plus years with racing games. With Dirt, with Formula One, Grid, and all that. So yeah, I'd love to see them go into a proper in-depth pod racing game.
Definitely.
For that, like, I've always thought about what type of games I want to see, but not so much who would make them yet. So that's definitely something I need to give more thought.
I have a couple ideas. One, I want to see a no-name developer come and do something really unique with the license, something smaller in scope, very, very indie. I'd love to see that, like a smaller scale exploration of the Star Wars universe. And I would also love to see...
No, I really like that, because I think it is important to remember that, that whilst the license is opened up, it doesn't necessarily have to come from some absolutely huge, AAA developers. We could potentially see some indie company, pitch an idea and be like, hey, we're a small team based in Italy maybe, and we want to make this Star Wars game. Here's our idea. And then they're like, oh, that's actually that's a really interesting idea. So I think it would be awesome to see something like that, give smaller the developers and publishers a chance to be able to have their say, because I think if you talk to anyone, they've all got their own like small little ideas of what you could do with the Star Wars franchise, whether it's introducing a new character and telling their story, or whether it's taking an existing character and furthering their story in some kind of way. I think that would be really interesting to see what other people's take on the universe would be.
Definitely. The game with the cat in a cyberpunk world?
Oh, yes. Stray, I think it's called.
Yes. I want that,
beautiful.
But Star Wars and Lawful Cat on Coruscant.
That'd be amazing. Someone had a really awesome idea for a game yesterday, and I can't remember it, and it's really bugging me. Well, I saw someone YouTuber 8080 chat, and someone in my comments actually as well. They had an idea for a game where you basically just play as an Ewok. I thought that was interesting.
Ewok Hunt the game.
Yes.
Horror-based Ewok game, but you play as the stormtroopers, and you have to survive through and find out the secrets of the Ewok village. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Dude, that would be pretty cool, yeah. I think it would actually be really interesting to see some kind of... like the typical zoo building games and stuff like that. I would really love to see... Like, I genuinely wouldn't mind seeing that kind of game, but Star Wars, where you get to like have all of the different creatures in Star Wars. You can have like something as big as Rancors or Lothcats or something, and just you get loads of lore and information from each one. The locations they're from and all that stuff. I don't know. I just think something small and sweet like that would be awesome, because they don't have to all be big action-packed adventures. They can could be some relaxing thing like that, because I feel like with the Star Wars license really opening up, it would be awesome to cater to even more audiences than what we already have. So
my last one, I'm about to blow your mind here. Obsidian Entertainment, and they are in charge of making KOTOR 3. BioWare started the series with KOTOR 1. Obsidian made the better Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. So I think what would be great, everyone would really enjoy that. It's been one of those games that when people are asking about Star Wars games people want, it's on the top of the mind. BioWare has had some troubles in the most recent times with Anthem and a couple other offshoots of
Mass Effect Andromeda?
Mass Effect, yes. So Mass Effect. So they've had some shaky starts there. Obsidian Games, Outer Worlds is fantastic. I had a great time playing through that game. I think they could do something really cool with the Star Wars IP. Maybe it's not KOTOR 3, but something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people ask about KOTOR 3, and that would be awesome. Whilst I don't think it has to be KOTOR 3, I mean, to be fair, like, there's no reason as to why they can't reboot like the KOTOR series. Like, there's no there's no obligation.
I say KOTOR 3, but it could just be KOTOR.
Yeah, the only thing that I'd really say about that is, like, if they were to essentially, it wouldn't be the same story or completely the same game, but if they were to essentially remake KOTOR so that and bearing in mind that all games now are pretty much going to be have to be canon, if they were to remake KOTOR so that it was going to be canon, then it would probably have to stay. I mean, they probably wouldn't really have to change the story that much, but there's a chance that they'd maybe want to change the story, do something different with it. And then I feel like you'll get this typical scenario where the game comes out, the story's different to the original story, people don't like that it's different, and then they'll start raging, and it's pretty sad. But I don't know. I think it would be awesome to actually see someone take on the Old Republic era. Mm-hmm. I don't really know if Disney and Lucasfilm are going to be like, well, we don't want to go there just yet. I feel like that's the only thing, like, because there's this whole High Republic stuff going on. Maybe they won't want to, or maybe they could do that. Maybe they could pitch an idea for like an action RPG game in
Knights of the High
Republic era. Yeah, maybe they could do something like that. It's always a possibility. So that would be really interesting, actually.
It's a bright time for Star Wars games, and I'm so pumped that we can continue to cover Star Wars games, and it has such a bright future ahead.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I was really feeling like Star Wars game news over the last few weeks. I mean, obviously because it was the holiday time, but I just wasn't really expecting to see anything to at least EA Play Live later this year. So the fact that we're only halfway through January and we have news like that, it's just absolutely insane. Like, there's so much more we can talk about, whether it's just more news or speculation on, or just talking about things that we want to see from these games or what games we want. Like, there's just so much more we can do now, like, properly, knowing that, well, it's like a case of, if I made this dream pod racing game I want to see, like, there was never really much guarantee of ever being able to see that, but now that it's been expanded and we'll likely start seeing a lot more games coming out, then it's going to be a case of, I'm going to make this idea, and then boom, it just feels like it's got even more chance of it happening, really. So very, very
definitely
excited.
We are going to talk about it a lot more as we continue into the future. Next episode, we'll be talking to Scalp Walker about his victory in the Operation Ace Open and tips and tricks if you want to get better at squadrons. So stay tuned for that. Links to Mark's stuff will be down below. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, especially at such short notice.
Thanks for having me. Dude, no, it's absolutely fine. I'm pretty much always free, so it's always a pleasure.
That's all for this episode of UpLink Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/UpLink Podcast, to get exclusive content as well as access to UpLink Plus, a monthly exclusive podcast talking all things wider world of gaming, Star Wars, and more. Definitely come check this out and help us support the show. A great free way to support the show is by leaving us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you can leave a review of the podcast, it helps us out a ton and helps new listeners find the show. You can follow us on Twitter at UpLink Podcast, as well as on Instagram, UpLink Podcast as well. Twitter is a great way to keep up to date on all things Star Wars gaming, as well as all things on the show. Also, definitely check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/The Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. We stream every Saturday at, usually it's around 12 p.m. MST. We play Star Wars games, we play Among Us, we play all kinds of fun stuff, and it is a great time. Also, stay tuned for some more content coming to our YouTube channel as we are ramping things up for 2021. Also, if you love video games, Star Wars, plants, and pizza, definitely check us out on Discord. Link will be in the description. Come join our awesome community. You can listen to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. Wherever you find podcasts, you can find this show. As always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.